No. All right. It's Monday, July 14th, 2025. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we're going to talk about why there's no technology to talk about on Geek Nights. So if you live under a rock, you might not realize that the old SGDQ, the Summer Games Done Quick, is in full steam.
It's over.
Oh, I guess it's funny because I never watch it live, ever.
Well, it ended on Saturday night, Sunday morning.
As soon as it ends, what I then do is I go to their YouTube channel and I watch the individual things that I wanted to watch. And I end up watching most of them, but I usually only watch them on YouTube after the fact. I almost never watch anything live.
There's no way you're watching most of them because watching most of them would take you a week. It's a nonstop full week.
Yep. Well, really what I do is there's a very, very small number of GDQs that I watch full attention the entire video from start to finish. And there's a number that I'll put on in the background and have to pay attention to while I'm playing Overwatch or something.
To watch a whole week is
yep. But the one I watched with full attention to kick off my engagement with SGDQ is the hour-long Belatra run. And it was pretty good. I appreciate that I play Belatra when I'm just playing it myself, like, while I'm pooping. I play it really fast, but they play it about 8 to 10 times faster than I play it. And that's not with like a known seed. That's like they're seeing the information on the screen as fast as I am, and they're clicking so fast I can't follow them. It's kind of amazing.
The GDQ is, both of them are becoming more convention-y. They had an artist alley for the first time at the place. They got panels there. They got.
I was thinking at some point I feel like I might want to go as it becomes more of an event. And I look at old GDQs. The room was empty. Yeah. Now this room is packed.
The problem is that it's a week. Even the people who speedrun don't go to the whole, unless they're like running it or something. People don't go to the whole. Only nut jobs go to the whole thing for all. The whole time. It's like a lot of people show up, do their speed run, maybe hang out for a day or two and go home.
Now, right? I posit to you, imagine if MagFest, as is, instead of being over a weekend, was just an entire week. It was just 7 days. I would probably go to all 7 days.
I think, I'm saying there are people who go to all 7 days, but I think
I'd have to cut another con or two out of my schedule to make that happen.
Right. I'm just saying the majority of people who would not be going to the 7 days of the MagFest, they would go to like the first weekend, they go to the start, they go to the end. Maybe some, money-saving people would go to the middle, right?
It really depends on how much of like other things to do there are, how much of a party scene there is. Like, what else am I doing other than just sitting in the audience?
I think what would happen is a lot of the stuff that is, you don't really do at a weekend con because you run out of time. If it's a full week con, it's like, it's like today we're going to spend on just this one thing.
If PAX Unplugged were a week long, there'd be at least 2 days where I'm like, I'm just going to enter 2 tournaments, like full, big, long tournaments on Tuesday and Thursday. I'm just going to enter the Root tournament and take 12 hours playing Root and see what happens.
No, assuming you don't get eliminated immediately.
I feel like I can make it a little ways in, especially considering
there is some luck involved.
My experience, the only PAX tournaments I've entered, one of them, Cat in the Box, almost everyone in my group had never played Cat in the Box before, to the point that I had to teach them how to play the game before we could play our round of the tournament. And the Tsuro one ended in Scott, you and me, playing multiple sudden death rounds because we played the game literally mathematically perfectly.
I did go to a small board game thing at Pig Beach Friday, and there were only like 5 people there, and it was loud, which was annoying, but otherwise it was fine. But I was reminded that people aren't good at work.
Well, I mean, remember, like, I love that old Nerd NYC thing, like when we hang out and think coffee and play board games, but like, it was always weird to me how you and I would win like 80% of all the games either of us ever played at these events. And it was a weird experience, and I feel like we forget because we only play against
I forgot, and I was like, oh right, it's like one of the people was struggling with like the rules to somewhat simple-ish games, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a vote who wins game, and the other people didn't struggle with the rules at all. They were board gamers, but they weren't. And it's like they weren't making like foolish moves and losing like dum-dums. They weren't dummies, but they weren't doing the extra level of thought.
But you, like Kellis, among the world-born, see behind their face and know exactly what they're doing and see the error of their ways.
We played Flip 7, and I got a score of 0 because I fell behind in the first go, and I'm like, well, I have to push my luck to catch up, and I just kept I just failed every time. And I'm like,
that happens in Wizard. You can be the best at Wizard, but if you fuck up the first 2 hands, well, you gotta push your luck for the entire rest of that game. Right.
And then we played Heat on the most basic rule, which I had never done, and wow, it's basic on the basic rule. There's a reason we've never done that. It's too basic. But I won. And then we played some game that someone brought that was basically just a what's it called? It's like sort of like a lunch money, a vote who wins with some luck also, and I won that too.
There's a board game night that happens like every other week at that beer garden in the Glacier Rock, like that area. And the difference between it and other venues is when we've gone in there, when that group is there, it's a pretty big group of people playing tabletop. Most of them are playing like Settlers and Down, but I mean that's any group.
Splendors.
Yeah, I mean we are a rarefied weird group that our predilections become increasingly esoteric, but it is quiet in there. And that is a big deal. So the thing is, I've been saying for like a month, I'm gonna roll in and like just with like come in, me and Emily and a few people maybe, and just go play a game. But it always ends up being on nights where like I got something else going on, so I just haven't done it yet, other than like seeing it happen. But anyway, in some news, because it's Monday, not Tuesday, I got a little bit of actual tech news to talk about. So Debian. If you don't know what Debian is, well, I don't know what to say, but they are doing something that I don't think is actually controversial, except among the most extreme of neckbeards, and I don't think anyone believes this is a bad idea in good faith. They are, as of now, they've made the decision to drop support for i386, but already with an asterisk. So you can't run Debian for an i386 unless you are doing this in a virtualized environment on a 64-bit system going forward.
Right. Is they're basically making it so it, because right now it's like, the current version of Debian is they make binaries and they compile everything so that it will work. If you have an old 32-bit CPU, Debian will work. And the thing is, almost no one is still using those for real. It's like some guys out there like, I'm doing it. It's like, listen, you have those because they're your cool vintage computers. And you know what? Just install the previous version of Debian on them. Yep. Or the other thing you can do is like, okay, let's say there's a particular piece of software you need to update and Debian is not up. You got an old version of Debian, it's not getting updates anymore, and you have a 32-bit CPU. As long as, if that software itself is still written in such a way that will work on that CPU, you can just get the source code and compile it yourself and it'll work.
But I think the real story behind this, like the reason I bring it up is that it is remarkable that as of July 14th, 2025, you can take the latest release of a modern Linux distribution and run it on what is literally the first x86 32-bit CPU if you have that hardware, and it will just work. The fact that it held on this long is amazing. But today I learned the 386, the physical chip, was not discontinued formally until the year 2007.
I'm sure someone was using it for something.
I imagine a lot of military things used it, is my guess.
Yeah, just try to get like a one that was made in 2007. See what it's like.
But this thing, like, to give you a sense of the 386, it replaced the 286 by upping to 32-bit.
Yeah, they're not talking when they say i386. They don't mean. I mean, they do, but they don't mean the 386 CPU.
Yep.
They mean 30. Any CPU that has that instruction set, which is all 32-bit x86 CPUs, which is basically up until they were 64-bit.
Yep, in the x86 architecture, you have this every periodically new instruction sets appear, which are new things you can do with the CPU and like new commands you can make. And I'm obviously being very vague about it because it gets complicated if you talk about the details. But these instruction sets have always been sort of backward compatible in that they add more, and often software and operating systems will eventually start to take advantage of new things that have been introduced, but you can't use those new things if you have an old chip. And
yeah, I mean, sometimes, like there'll be new and instructions, like there's these AVX instructions or whatever.
Remember MMX?
Yeah, that was like one of the first ones way back in the 90s. But it's like, yeah, if you have a CPU that supports those instructions because it's new enough and the software is written in such a way, it could be that the software will take advantage of the instructions if you have them, and if you don't, we'll use some other method and it'll still work. Or B, the software could be written in such a way where it's like, well, your CPU is too old, I just can't run on your CPU, and sorry.
Yep. But according to a bunch of people who are reacting to some of this news, there's the real push is just that everything is 64-bit nowadays. Like, that's the world. And just like once 32-bit appeared, like 16-bit disappeared. So that we've hit that point. But two, anyone who's still running something that uses the i386 instruction set has definitely migrated to some sort of virtualized environment at this point. So at the bottom physical layer, there's probably a 64-bit CPU running an environment that is virtualized to run whatever software it is they have that still exists.
There's people using, old hardware for fun or for reasons.
Yep. Well, I mean, case in point, when I was working at IBM, we had a bunch of Series 1s. They were still running. One of my jobs was to maintain
what CPU
those.
do those have?
Fuck if I know. They were Series 1s direct mainframes. They ran like custom IPLs. Like
IBM Series 1 mainframes.
There were two. All of ours were running the real-time operating system, but there was a batch operating system. And
introduced in 1976. It's a 16-bit mini computer.
Mini, it's like minigun.
Yeah, it's basically like a PDP-11, but IBM.
Yep. When I was leaving IBM, actually, because there were so many, my department offered if I wanted one, I could take one. And I really, really wanted to. And the only reason I did not take a full rack Series 1 with me when I left IBM was I couldn't fit it in my car, and I was vaguely smart enough to realize this would be a boat anchor that would haunt me for the rest of my days, and I would eventually have to take it to a landfill. So yeah. Anyway, you got any news?
Yeah. So, Apple, they got their iOS, the Watch OS, iPad OS, technically are separate, but whatever. And they've got their Mac OS, right? And so over time, the iPad OS has been creeping closer to the Mac OS, right? And the Mac OS less so, creeping closer to the iPad OS, right? They're sort of meeting in the middle on that end of things, right?
Yep.
Whereas now there's an announcement today that Google, which doesn't really have a desktop computer operating system, but they do have Chrome OS, which is just Linux, but only application you run is Chrome, and you do everything inside of Chrome with Chrome extensions.
I feel
Chrome
like
apps,
the people
apps.
who are the most familiar with this as a way of using a computer are people in schools, because a lot of schools give every kid like a laptop with Chrome OS on it. That's just their life. That's all they got.
Yeah, it's like when we went to school in the 80s and 90s, it was Macs or and then eventually Windows 95 computers in the schools. But I guess, for the past decade plus, Chrome OS has dominated schools because it's cheap. And Google did a really good job of getting schools to choose them. And it's not like schools have the money to buy Macs and
anything.
Macs. Yeah, and there's other reasons, but anyway. So they announced today, that they're gonna Android and Chrome OS are gonna merge into one thing, and that just makes sense business-wise.
It's a trend in general at the enterprise level. Like, in my professional life, across a bunch of technology sectors, that is one of the like current fads. I say fad, but it's one of the current trends, let's say, in the enterprise world and in the large scale world of converging platforms and then like getting rid of all this redundancy of maintaining two different tech stacks or two different development stacks.
But yeah, this is we're going to see what actually happens here, right? Is like, you know, if people can suddenly install every app from the Google Play Store on a Chromebook, does that make a Chromebook like, you know, some actually a more desirable, more useful device? Are, you know, people who are Android users, you know, it's like the Android tablets really didn't get it done.
Yep. It is like surprising how useless Android tablets were, even if you got a nice one.
Yeah. But, you know, Chromebooks have been popular and useful for people because
I don't know if they've been popular or just a lot of people are forced to use them because of school, to be honest.
There are people who buy them outside of school.
I'd love to see the numbers. I don't know if those numbers exist. I just love to see them. I've never seen one in the wild that was not a middle schooler or a high schooler that they got it from their school. Literally never.
Well, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Because it's like Android has users, so it's like if Android is on your phone, but you need something that's more than a phone, and suddenly there's an inexpensive actual like laptop computer, but it's Android, and it's like everything that's on your phone will be on there, except there'll be a keyboard and a big screen and all that. I could see some people would choose that option. Right, whereas those people might not choose Chromebook, which is just a web browser.
Yep. Though complicating it, like I have fully migrated off of Chrome as a browser in my regular desktop.
I haven't used Chrome in a long time.
Yep, I have fully migrated away from Chrome. Though in big companies, Chrome is kind of the default at almost every company at this point.
I mean, if you're at a company that's making you use what they say, but
yeah. I've never worked at I've worked at one company where I could do whatever I wanted, and I had local admin on my machine.
I feel like for a company laptop, if I'm using a Mac, I just use Safari. Right? Why would I mess around?
Yeah. Well, at least the place I work now, really developers have Macs and everyone else has Windows.
Yeah.
Like engineers are the only people who use Macs.
Safari is really a sad case because like it's actually like there's so many things that are right about it, and it's like if there was some sort of combination of, you know, Safari with Firefox, like that would be like, you know, unbeatable, but that's not where we're at.
Yep. I've actually on my workstation today, I actually now use Edge as my primary browser.
I mean, it's just Chrome, but Microsoft.
Yep. But I can make very extensive ad blocking work, including the old good microblock. All right. Anyway, since we're doing a beefy topic, I'll skip my Neanderthal news and jump right into things of the day. But anyway, things of the day. Another little mini documentary. I did that one, a different one a while ago about some hockey stuff. Another hockey thing, but this one is interesting.
In the middle of July.
Yeah, I'm thinking about hockey because the NHL rules changes were announced, and they are
not much was changed.
Not much was changed. Most of what was changed was around the game of salary cap, which is a subset of the game of hockey.
Well, that wasn't the rule changes. That was the collective bargaining agreement that was extended. That's separate from the rule changes at the governor's meeting.
True. Well, I would argue that NHL hockey is a combination of the rule set of that rule set caused by those contracts plus the rule set in the NHL handbook. Because they do both deeply affect the game. But anyway, I digress. This video is pretty recent, and basically it talks about a situation that comes up often, both in software development and games, and it is the edge case. If you're not familiar, if you're young, you might not realize that hockey used to have this rule where if a player on offense had even a fraction, a millimeter of their body in the crease, the little area where the goalkeeper lives, and a goal was scored, the goal would be waved off. It wouldn't be a good goal. You can't be in the crease. This rule.
Instead of that, we have the somewhat kind of ambiguous, but maybe not as ambiguous as most people think, goaltender interference rule, where you can be in the crease as long as you don't interfere with the goaltender.
Yep, and the reason I'm pointing this out is the reason that rule change happened was because the NHL was aware, this documentary is 15 minutes long and gets into the full story of this, was aware that rule didn't make a lot of sense, and it was hurting the game because that rule at that time was part of another thing in hockey, the dead puck era, where for a bunch of other reasons, nobody was scoring goals. Like, hockey games did not have a lot of goals being scored, so a goal was an even bigger deal in the 90s than it is now. So
yeah, I know sports leagues tend to think, they want more like baseball, baseball wants there to be more home runs because it's more, I guess, exciting, and they think that'll get them more fans and more money. But personally, just speaking for myself alone, I like a sport where there's less scoring so that when someone scores, it's more meaningful. Like, that's the reason I can't at basketball is like so boring. It's like I'm falling asleep there because it's like you scored a basket. It's like, yay. Like, you can't, there's nothing to get excited about when you score too much, right?
Well, you know what? Basketball, I realize, is more like a MOBA in that it's just, is your grind rate higher than the other team's grind rate over the course of the game?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's like I need, but also at the same point, if you're really like a dead, like there's not a lot of like soccer where it's like 0-0.
Yep, that's also not fun.
Like, it needs to be like low single digits, but everyone gets at least one.
But soccer is a good example because if the rate of victory point accumulation in a sport is too low to where an individual victory point like a goal matters so much, like one goal determines the game, and on average like 1.1 goals are scored per game, then any rule that interacts with whether or not a goal counts can have devastating consequences. And in a physical sport, it's really hard to adjudicate those kinds of situations. So this edge case was the Stanley Cup final. The final in overtime was determined by, in 1999, a goal where it was ambiguous whether or not the crease rule would apply or not. And they made a call that it didn't apply and the goal was good. But then the video, which was reviewed as one of the teams was already off the ice and the other team was celebrating, it is obviously the skate was just a little bit inside. Like, it was the worst case scenario for the NHL. And this talks about why we have the current rule today and how they made these decisions and this whole ridiculous situation where the edge case became the worst case possible scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got?
What was my thing of the day?
Hot spring shark attack.
Hot spring shark attack. Yeah.
I want to say 1 minute and 19 seconds into Scott's video is when this really picks up.
So it's a trailer for basically a Japanese B movie called Onsen Hot Spring. Right?
Japanese snakes on a plane. Japanese Sharknado.
It's basically Sharknado, but also sort of like a kaiju film in a way, right? Like a Godzilla. Like, you can tell that a lot of the shots are like miniature sets, right? It's almost like in a Godzilla film. I don't know if I really need to see the film.
No.
I just the trailer is enough to give you really pretty much everything. But I guess seeing the film might be a good time in the right scenario, right set of circumstances, right people. But it's just like, it really makes me think, like, why is it that, if such a ridiculous film like this, right, in the U.S., it's like the shark attack movie is Jaws, which is like serious, and it works, obviously. It's a legendary.
But in the U.S., the shark attack movie is also Sharknado.
Right, and Sharknado is just garbage. It's not funny. I don't want to see it. It's just terrible, right? Sharknado is so bad it's bad. For some reason, the way, Japanese people, at least, or Japanese filmmakers, and perhaps other countries' filmmakers as well, do it stylistically, it's actually there's a charm to it. And I think that it could just be, from my perspective, because I am American, maybe Japanese people think Sharknado has charm and that Onsen Shark Attack is stupid. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that I see in my beholding, there's a charm to this that does not exist in, U.S. types.
Well, it could be looking at this one as a specific example, like you said, the references and homage to kaiju and other things. Contrast that with, say, Snakes on a Plane is probably the perfect example. A movie that was made solely because the concept was itself a meme. Seeing the movie was pointless. All you needed to know was that it's a real movie, and that's the entire joke. There's nothing more to get other than seeing Samuel L. Jackson say, "Get these motherfucking snakes off my motherfucking plane," which was a post first on Fark.com, which is what partly led to that movie being made. That's the entire joke.
There's no way I'm the first person to have this idea, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is that we know about Snakes on a Plane. It is a movie you can watch.
Yeah, there's literally no reason to.
And we know about Kazam starring Sinbad, which definitely does not exist. It's completely made up. Right? And people just have a false memory of a thing that never, right? What if we made trailers for something like Snakes on a Plane that we know no one would ever want to go see, right? But just it's funny that it exists. But then don't ever make the actual thing. Just make.
Wasn't that Goncharov? That was Goncharov.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know about Goncharov?
No.
How do you not know about Goncharov? Oh my!
I've never heard of that word in my life.
It's a fake movie. It was an internet meme. It was so people made trailers, movie posters. There is a very surprise.
I wasn't the first person to have this idea.
Yeah, but someone did it. A bunch of people did it. Goncharov starred Robert De Niro, Sybil Shepherd, Gene Hackman, Al Pacino, and it was directed by Martin Scorsese. And it is a classic, I think, 1973 mafia film that was lost and restored. And it's all fake. The whole thing's fake. Doesn't exist.
No, but I'm saying make a new. Not talking about make up something that's old. Make up something new. Like make people think this movie's coming, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, it made people think they can see this movie.
Okay.
That this movie existed. I tricked a few people into thinking this movie was real. Like, how did you not intersect? I feel like we talked about this on Geek Nights and you just forgot.
Maybe Hot Spring Shark Attack does exist.
Yeah. I feel like the ultimate play would be to actually make Goncharov for real. Anyway, in the meta moment, the Geek Nights Book Club book is
The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I'm going to figure out how to pronounce your name, Alex, so I'll stop messing it up because I'm going to have to say it quite a few more times.
I have a Greek coworker who pronounces that exact name, Michaelides.
All right. Well, I got the book from the library, and I got 28 days to read it. So guess what? It's gonna happen. It doesn't look that thick. It's not thick.
Also, if it is a thriller mystery, I feel like I'm gonna power through it.
I mean, it's about somebody who murders their husband and then doesn't say any words at all. At period, completely silent afterwards as the name, The Silent Patient. And they're a patient because there's a criminal psychologist who's trying to figure them out, but they don't say anything. So how can the criminal psychologist figure anything out? And I guess once I start reading, I'll understand how they figure anything out. Are they going to do brain scans? Are they going to do face expression reading?
I feel like they're going to mostly examine the evidence and interview other people.
Maybe, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So I'm going to make a very bold prediction, knowing literally nothing.
The person murder their husband.
I'm going to make a prediction, knowing literally nothing other than what Scott just said. I bet the husband deserved it, and we're going to find out why.
You don't say. You know what? I mean, that probably makes sense, right?
Well, I mean, at PAX East, I predicted the Leafs were going to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. It could be I'm just completely guessing, not having read one page, right? Some just random guesses, throwing them out there, right? The husband did something to take away the person's speech and then got murdered after, right? Because of that. So there's some sort of connection between the two there.
Because it's a psychological thriller, I'm going to guess repressed memory nonsense happens.
Yeah, someone else did the killing or brainwashed them or
I feel like it's not a sci-fi. She's actually an android. The real wife escaped.
Maybe the criminal psychologist did this whole thing and got this quiet person to
husband and wife were in cahoots because he was dying of a terminal illness anyway, and it was an insurance scam.
I don't know. Whatever it is, we're going to find out shortly. You can find out faster if you read it yourself.
We will be live at PAX West 2025 on Monday, September 1st at 1 p.m. in the Firebird Theater with an actually all-new talk, mastering game mechanics, auctions, and bidding. We're not going to define...
I'm sure it's not all new because we have talked about auctions and bidding in the past, and I'm sure we'll also do like, what is a game mechanic?
I actually specifically refuse to do what is a game mechanic. I have one slide when I started working on the panel that is like, you all know what a game mechanic is. Don't fucking start with me, and then we move on into the panel. Like we're not even gonna talk about that. We don't need to. Partly because I feel like we have 3 hours of content already that we have to pare down for this one. This one, I think the problem for me is that I realized making just baby's first skeleton slides for this. Auctions and bidding are my favorite possible game mechanics, like bar none. I love that more than anything. That to this day, I mean, I think I play Amon-Ray perfectly. I think I've solved that game.
You got to play some Big Shot.
Yeah, we got to. You know, let's play some Pizarro.
Big Shot, I think, is better than Pizarro.
Well, Pizarro, you're undefeated at Web of Power. I'm undefeated at Pizarro. I don't like Pizarro. Otherwise, one of our panels from PAX East 2025 is on YouTube. I will have the second one up relatively soon. And otherwise, you know, we got a Discord, we got a forum. Bit by bit, I am watching the internet, at least smart people on the internet, start to realize the toxicity of all these giant social media platforms. And I've seen one small community migrate back to a forum. So my advice to you, come into the GeekNights forum and hang out. It's a forum. Maybe the old technology needs a renaissance. Otherwise, yeah, I got nothing else. Get into the main bit. Let's do it. So you had a good idea for this one. Why isn't there...
I don't know if it's a good idea, but it's just something that I've been noticing for some years now. Right?
Why isn't there any tech news? Why does nothing new happen?
There is tech news, right? But it's usually just like, you know, I mean, for a long time, tech news has been company does this, company does that, right? But it's the tech news used to be actual developments, changes, advancements in noticeable ways for consumer technology that actually changed how the place that technology took in people's lives was changing. Right?
And we're not talking about like humans landed on the moon. Like that is a different kind of technological advancement. But like a technology is released
so like
that was new.
Technologies, things you buy, right? And
well, like here's an example: the
TVs,
wireless telephone. That was fucking crazy when that was invented.
Yeah, it changed how people live their lives, right? Even TVs going from being giant to being flat, or, you know, phones having a touchscreen on them, and then a smartphone being a thing like a Palm Trio, and then a smartphone being a thing like an iPhone. It's like this kind of things changed society.
Yeah, the existence of a cellular phone like was crazy. And then cellular phones, they're kind of the best example because we went from you can only make a phone call if you are physically connected to something, and even wireless phones were very local in range. So like you had to go to someone's house or you had to find a payphone. As soon as we had cell phones, you could make a phone call from anywhere. That is like a foundational shift, but that technology was very early. And then I suddenly got some bandwidth issues from you and there was thunder outside.
Oh, yeah, there is a storm brewing outside.
Yep, my OBS disconnected just as the lightning and thunder happened a second ago, and you just reappeared in my feed.
No, well, I have no problems on my end.
Yeah, it seems to have corrected, so I'm just put a marker there. Anyway, proceed with what you were saying.
Right, but there are some software developments too, right? Usually enabled by the hardware, like for good, better or worse, right? Social media, whatever platforms they may be, right? Going mobile with Twitter and then others, Orkut, did change the way people use technology, right? It used to be that, even though everyone could sort of go on the web who had access and get information, only people who are technologically advanced could share and publish information other than a forum, an email, or an instant message, right? And so only nerdy people could make a website.
Yep.
And so social media basically just allowed everyone to maybe not necessarily free form make a website, but to publish to the world, right? And that was a major, significant societal shift. But over time, especially recently, things have really slowed down. We're not seeing these big shifts. Instead, what we're seeing, especially with the two most recent things, which is, the crypto bullshit followed by not really AI bullshit, is companies feel like they always have to do the next big thing. Right? They have to come up with something new. They can't just incrementally make something faster, right? Because then it's like how the capitalism demands growth. You can't get growth by like iPhone slightly faster. It's like, well, I'll just keep the one I got until it dies, and now you're making less money.
Well, what I
right?
think it is there some once
is everyone throws out their phones because they're not any good anymore, and there's a new thing that's totally different and better.
But like, there is no material difference between 5 iPhones ago and the current iPhone. Like, yeah, it's got a better camera.
iPhone 7 or 8 is about good.
Yeah, like they'll do pretty much everything a better phone would do. They might be a little slower. The camera's not as good, but like the technology is not changing your life like it was when you went from regular cell phone to a smartphone of any kind. And I feel like part of why you wanted
the same way.
And part of why you wanted to do this show,
technology is the same.
There's this meme that we were talking about earlier today among our friends of, it was a tweet, I guess. What's your favorite tech innovation? And the 4 tech innovations listed are illegal cab company, illegal hotel chain, fake money for criminals, and the plagiarism machine. Because this is where we are now. Tech companies or companies that use technology to make consumer goods are increasingly focused on finding new ways to monetize technology they've already developed, because the cost of research and development to make something truly new is staggering. And we're in a stage of capitalism where nobody is willing to make that investment. And many previous things that led to consumer technology, like the internet, for example, that only happened because the government was funding primary research that private companies basically took to the last mile. But now the government is not funding that kind of research like it used to. And a tech company is not going to fund the effort it took to make the internet just to sell something on top of the internet. They're going to take stuff they already got, recycle it, and make a market. We're having a supply side driven consumer technology world instead of a demand side driven consumer technology world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that, it's like, forget about the R&D cost it would take. It's that, what are you going to even invent? Right? It's like,
isn't that the question? Inventing something new by definition is something new.
Right. But it's like, there isn't like, even if you had the idea, it's like the reality, the science that's in the way of, it's like, what can you possibly make? Because it's already like we've hit these limits, right? They had Moore's law. It's like Moore's law has been dead for a long time, right? It's like the CPUs they're getting slightly faster, but not that much faster. Not faster enough to where you're going to notice unless you're doing a few really high performance activities that almost the very few people bother with.
Well, case in point,
right?
The workstation right now that I'm touching that's making GeekNights, that workstation is probably 10 times more powerful than even I need to make GeekNights. Yeah. I could make do with less. It is not transformative to have this computer versus the computer I had 10 years ago. It's nicer incrementally, but it's not transformative.
Right. It's like there's, it used to be that like, the difference between a 486 and, I don't know, a Core 2 Duo, that's a few years difference there, is like significant. It's like one of those computers can do a lot of things
my first computer
cannot do.
My first computer was a 486. Couldn't even use Ethernet. Barely worked by any standard. My next computer was a Pentium 1200. My next computer was an Athlon K7 800 megahertz. Then after that, my computers were faster, but that didn't matter that much anymore.
Yep. I have a MacBook Pro here that's like a year old, maybe, right? It's an M3, like the best M3 you can get. And then I have under my desk a PC with an i7 that's like from 2018. It's old. 2016, 2018. I think it's 2018. But anyway, it's old. And what can the MacBook do that the PC can't do? I mean, it's faster and nicer to use, and the user interface is different, and I guess it can run Mac software. But actually, you could argue the PC could do more because the library of all those games, the Mac can't play. At least it could play them if I put on crossover or whatever. But at the point, it's like they're both running Discord, they're both running Audition, they both run Firefox. It's like, what advancement happened there, right?
Yep. So we have two things going on. Well, three things going on. First thing, with late capitalism, large companies seeking profit are basically using technology not to sell technology products, but to basically make destabilizing illegal products. And they're like Airbnb and Uber and Lyft and all these things. Those were not technology plays. Those were just, we're big enough to ignore regulation plays.
Yeah, I mean, the early technology people, your Steve Jobses and your Bill Gateses, right? The previous generation of Silicon Valley people, were they evil trying to get rich? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But they were getting rich by making actually new technology or taking a difficult to use technology and making it available to the masses.
Exactly. At the same time, those people were like, how will I get rich? I know. We have this new invention, the personal computer. Let's get one of these in every house and then we'll be rich. And they sold it as like, yes, you need one of these. It will change your life. It will let you do all these things that you couldn't do. And they weren't lying about that. It was true. Right. And now it's like, okay, well, everyone has one of those in their pocket now. And you're a new person trying to get in the technology business game. What are you going to sell that you can sell? It's like, you have to, right? They're basically just have to make up lies to sell because they haven't invented anything new. Or
they have to make up a market that didn't exist for something they already have.
Yeah. And so you look at things, for example, VR is, I mean, it's not that new. It's been around since at least the 90s and even longer, right? But it has advanced to the point now where, the resolutions are higher and it actually is, it's not, dactyl hunt or whatever.
Yeah. But we hit the embodiment threshold. It is kind of like when computers hit the point of you can play FPSs for real. They just work and they look realistic. VR in a home has hit that level.
Right. But yet it's not something you can sell to everybody. It's still a really, really niche thing. And unless there's some tremendous development that is not forthcoming anytime soon, I think that's how it's going to stay, right? This isn't something that you can sell to everyone, even though it is a real technology. It's not some
and someday it will.
Nonsense.
So then here's the exercise. What would... that absolutely will someday, but it's a few more generations away.
Yeah, will you be alive?
Well, I mean, think about early FPSs. They barely hit the threat. Like, actually, FPSs are a great example. Go look at the timeline of releases of games that were first-person shooters, and you see, like, every year a game could come out just about that was revolutionary compared to every game that existed in the FPS genre up to that point. And then we hit a point where you can make any possible FPS you want and make it look beautiful and sell it to almost everyone who has a gaming PC just fine. Now, when was the last time?
There's a big difference between this year's FPSs and last year's FPSs.
Look at Quake 1 and Quake 2.
Yeah, now there isn't really much difference between this year's FPSs and the FPSs from 5 years ago.
And when there are, you're competing on games.
That newer Doom game came out, and it's like, okay, I'm sure if you have the best NVIDIA GPU, there's some graphical niceties or whatever, but it's like, what's there between that and the previous Doom game?
Well, because you're not competing on technology, you're competing on game design. The technology gives you more tools for game design than you have maxed out. Game design is the only thing holding FPS is back. The technology has been good enough for the best possible FPS a human could design, at least for the next 100 years, for at least a decade.
Yeah. And so, right, companies, they come up with literally anything that they can pretend is new. And, I think the best thing, someone was like, look, if this, quote, AI was actually useful, right, they wouldn't have to force people to use it. And you look, every tech company is basically forcing it upon users, right?
Yep.
It's like, they're like, oh yeah, you're trying to do X, but let's insert this, right? Whatever application you're using, it's Adobe, Microsoft, Apple, whatever. We're going to try to insert these features into where you already are, so you have to like turn them off and get away from them. It's
Yep.
like,
If it was good, I would be like trying to use it and asking who I can pay to use it.
right. If it was actually good, it was something that people wanted, it would be its own app, and people would go out of their way to get that app on purpose, and companies wouldn't have to force it on you. And that's like proof enough just on its own,
Yep.
right? No one ever had to force, sometimes they tried to, right? They would put like AOL icon on your desktop and stuff like
Yep.
that. Right? But not in the way that they're forcing the
So here's
the
an
checks.
exercise. Let's imagine technologies that within a reasonable, like, near future span. Let's not talk about the culture, obviously, but like, what would be a transformative technology in the next decade or the next 50 years that like we could imagine?
I mean, the problem is anything I could think of, I don't think is possible in the next 10 years, if ever.
Yep.
Right.
Let's see. I think, what would be pretty transformative if we had the technology to rapidly charge small electric transport devices. We can't charge them rapidly.
Right. I mean, so like, yes, there's always, the stupid laws of physics are in the way, right?
Yep.
But
Or
if
just
we
the
could-
laws of anything that can be charged that rapidly can be uncharged that rapidly, like a grenade.
Right. If we could get better batteries, right, I don't think it would really change anything except for transportation, because transportation is the one place where we're using batteries, but they sort of run out,
Yeah,
right?
because
So it's
my phone never runs out of battery unless it's old. My laptop only runs out of battery if it's old.
And even if you're, even if there's one of those people out there who's always having problems with their phone charging, right?
Yep.
It's like if their phone had just an amazing battery that they only had to charge once in a while and was just significantly better, it still doesn't change what the phone does.
Yeah.
It won't change society, right?
The revolution in batteries on cell phones previously was I had a phone, you could talk on it for an hour or have it on standby for 8 to 12 hours, and that was it. And then it was dead until you recharged it. Getting to the point of the phone lasts the whole day even if you use it, that was a big step. Everything beyond that was just niceties.
Yeah. But if you can improve transportation batteries, right? And for example, right now, let's say I want to go on a bike ride with someone. I could
Yep.
bike affect almost infinitely as long,
Yep.
as a certain speed, as long as I have food and fuel my body, right? But other people can't, right? They're much slower. But if they had an e-bike, well, they could ride with me, and that'll be nice. If they aren't, but the problem is, if I ride, I can ride like 100 miles or more, maybe. And if someone else, they could ride that far on an e-bike, but the battery isn't going to last. The battery will die at 40 or 50 miles. And then what? That's like, is there going to be, there's no pit stops for e-bike batteries.
And now they have a 50-pound bike that doesn't have a battery.
Now they're going nowhere, and they need a car to rescue them now. It's worse, right? It's like they're stuck. And so if there was some sort of better battery, better charging technology that was faster or just everywhere or solar.
Well,
or whatever,
this actually leads to something very important. We have hit a
could
threshold.
bike on an e-bike forever, and it would just always be charged. That would be great.
I think we've hit a very important threshold, and this is a good example, where it's not a technological advancement that would unlock that so much as a logistical advancement. Cars only work because there is a fucking gas station everywhere. In the entire world, just about. Look, in America, no matter where you are, there are gas stations. So if there was a logistical chain of swapping batteries that was as pervasive as gas stations, if you could roll into a gas station and they take your e-bike.
I'm saying if you didn't even need to swap batteries, if we advanced the battery technology.
Oh, but I'm saying you could get the same result most of the time.
You can get close, yeah.
But we never developed a car that can just drive thousands of miles without having to refill its tank. We never developed that because that's also kind of impossible. So instead, we developed a logistics chain using existing simple technology. Building gas stations is a logistical challenge, not a technological challenge. And I think this is an example of most of the things regular people interact with in society, we do not need more technology to make any of those things better. We just need to take existing technology, sometimes surprisingly old technology, and deploy it to more people. That will change the world more than any advanced R&D will.
It would also be a huge change. That would be a moderately significant social revolution to eliminate gas stations.
Right.
That would be huge.
And I think almost everything regular people interact with in American society today and much of the world, they don't need more advanced technology. They need access to technology we already have that they just don't have access to. Imagine if everyone had a shitty smartphone that just worked instead of the top 40% of society having a good smartphone and nobody else having anything.
But yeah, I don't know if any... It's like you look at what the tech companies are investing their money in, right? And it's like you can just see them like grasping at straws to find anything new at all.
Well, even worse, there are plenty of technologies that could be developed that would be great for society, but they will not give a return on investment to the company that develops it directly, consummate to the effort required.
Yeah, I think you see some companies out there that are sort of coming up from the bottom, which aren't trying to do something new necessarily, but are saying like, okay, you big giants are all trying to go find something new. We're going to try to compete with what it already exists and do better, right? So like there are certain phone companies out there that are like, we're going to make there's like a nothing phone and, stuff like that. You got, 8-Bit Do coming out with controllers, that are suddenly third-party controllers that may or may not be better than first-party ones, things of that nature, where it's like, look, there's nothing revolutionary. We didn't invent a new idea. We're just doing the thing that already exists, and we're trying to do it better because you big guys are not trying to do that right now, right? And that's kind of nice, I guess, but there's no way because they're not the big guy. They're sort of always stuck in a niche, right? It's like, even if someone made a phone better than an iPhone, like I looked at it, I'm like, damn, yeah, wow, you really did make a phone that's better than an iPhone. It's like, there's, platform switching costs and entrapment and all these other reasons that it's like.
Well, just how much better is it that it'll transform my life?
Right. If it's a little bit better, it's not going to matter. It has to be so much better. And that's the other thing is that, let's say they do come out and they figure something out. I don't know what they figure out, something. And it's so much better. They will immediately be bought or copied.
Yep.
And congratulations.
And this is why funding pure R&D outside of a profit motive has been so important. The internet was too expensive for anyone to ever invent. The only reason the internet exists is because it was invented by the government and then handed over to the public, and then a bunch of people, including a bunch of corporations, looked at it and said, I have an idea about how I could use that to make products to sell things to people.
Yeah, just like, roads, which nobody could afford to buy all the roads. Instead, we tax everybody, use the money to build roads, and then everyone just uses the roads. No matter whether they're doing it for profits or just to go, where they want to go, to the beach.